So I've been practicing my fundamentals, but knowing how to apply them to originals requires even more practice itself. That's why I've been on a quest to find ways I can force myself to draw original stuff. My first idea was to draw fan art of randomized characters, and it hasn't been exactly going well. Over the last weeks, as I was debating what to do because it has been way too long since the last one, I remembered about the drawing OCs from Discord videos. Now, a lot of them contain pretending to be a newbie to make things more interesting. But I cannot pretend, I just don't have it in me. I'm pretty boring and too old to play. I also dreaded having to talk. I could ask my followers for their OCs. That is, if I had them. At this point, I just had to bite the bullet and do it. I quickly went to search for the videos. Though I don't remember which one it was, the first one I clicked openly showed the server they used. I joined, looking around, filled with despair as I will have to utter words and talk to new people. Lucky for me, they also happen to have a channel called Draw Me, which is basically a gallery of OCs you can pick and choose from. I took screenshots of the OCs I felt like drawing, and this is important to take note of. I only took screenshots. I did not download the images themselves. After choosing the OCs, I started sketching immediately. The OCs were so pretty that I could not wait to draw them. Unfortunately, I can never seem to draw with photogenic poses or compositions. It always has to be an action of sorts, which isn't the best for me because I don't have the skill sets to make actions look cool. I was thinking that the first character could be the type to maybe trip or sit sleepy. For the second one, I didn't have many ideas. I tried a standing pose and it obviously looked so boring. Even a T-pose would have been more intriguing. So I thought harder and found another very original idea: recycling the falling from the first OC. I don't know much about ships, but I thought the anchor could have been heavy. Maybe the ground was slippery and they had nothing to hold on to. I wasn't satisfied with how the initial sketch looked, so I went back to the first OC. I changed the expression on their face because it seemed too gloomy for all the pink and cutesy vibes. I stopped myself from going too into the details while sketching and moved on to a new layer to draw clearly, so I can avoid doing line art. They were mostly on the same layer, but for some objects I created new layers if they overlapped with other stuff. At the end, I usually end up combining the layers once I erase the correct overlapping lines. Not properly drawing stuff out came with major setbacks. The rifles
It's not a rifle, it's a ruffle.
on each arm are completely different sizes, and the body looks like a broken doll. These were certainly due to me rushing. Even though I noticed them relatively early on, I did not go back and fix them. At the moment, I didn't really reason why I just moved on, but looking back, it was the best choice. This is just a casual practice to encourage creating. Doesn't have to be perfect because the goal wasn't that. The goal was to create and have fun. Going back to constantly fix stuff would have probably tired me out and lessened the fun I had, even if negligible. Now, about the screenshotted references I had. I went back to download them because I remember noticing Discord showing colors differently on some images. I clicked on the images. Lo and behold, the character has a tail. I quickly added a badly drawn tail. I wish I saw it earlier and took it into consideration, because now it looks out of place. I then made a gray colored layer of the whole silhouette so I can clip the colors onto it. Flat colors take way more time than they should. I've been thinking about that as I did these, but I think it has to do with Procreate rather than me. Maybe there is a better method I'm completely unaware of, but I'm not so hopeful. Blush to the knees and the cheeks with an airbrush. I then overlapped the line layer, colored them according to the object color, and put it on multiply. After that, I started blocking out the shadows. This time I went straight into the actual shadows so I can avoid wasting time like I did with the boxing piece. While jumping straight into the clean lines had some cons, I think I did pretty well when it came to shadows. I wanted to keep the shadows minimal, so initially I only had 2 layers for them. One for overall shadows and one more for the small overlapping areas. Explaining this would be much more easier if I knew the actual terminology. But as I went on, I added more layers, darkened the whole drawing with no regard to volume. A second new layer was added, but more for effects, so the light looks like it's fading towards the legs. I also added a yellow circle on overlay near the head, hoping it would make a difference. For this drawing, I was thinking it was morning and we arrived at school to find our friend waiting for us in the schoolyard. I don't know if that went well, but I was pretty satisfied once I was finished. I think one major contribution to that was the fact that I finished it in one sitting. Overall, it took around 3.5 hours. In both of these pieces, I only used the medium brush and this brush for the lines. I didn't do any adjustments in Procreate, but I played a bit with the settings in the Photos app. I can't trust my eyes as to which one is better, but considering my general coloring habits, the adjusted one probably looks better to others. As soon as I was done, I moved on to the next piece. This time around I had multiple sketch layers, which is kind of weird because the design is much less complex. I had a hard time reading this reference sheet. Eventually, I was done with all the necessities such as line art and flat colors. So just like the first piece, I went back to Discord to download the actual images, so my colors will be correct. I clicked on the images. Lo and behold, character has a tail. Now, I wasn't as surprised with this character having a tail because from what I can see, they are based on a whale. I added it quickly, but I think it looks too symmetrical. Since I didn't take it into consideration while drawing, it ended up looking out of place. The added tail didn't affect the earlier one much, but for this one, I had to draw the tail on a separate layer just in case it looked bad. I was feeling pretty uninspired when it came to the lights and shadows. As I was trying a few basic ones, I thought it could be the night, so they'd be using flashlights. As the character falls and makes a huge noise, I could remember points at them to see the situation. I'll admit, at first the pose kind of reminded me of a thief. That's why I thought of the flashlights. I'm not sure if there will be thieves specifying in the anchors though. I made a sketch shadow layer I was satisfied with and started cleaning it. I had 2 initial shadow layers just like the first one. I ended up doing a pretty bad job separating them, so they are very messy. I was thinking one could be used for sharper shadows while the other one is for airbrushing, but I mixed and matched them depending on how they overlapped. I'm not completely happy with how the shadows ended up looking. On the sketch, the pans had so much volume that I think I got too scared while cleaning them up, so I didn't draw out any big dominant shapes. Colors were already dark, so to see stuff easier I had the screen brightness at 100. I usually keep my screen less bright than others, so I thought this would result in a more pleasing look overall. But now it seems as if it was edited by a child who bumped up the saturation and the shadows to the max. I immediately sent these to the Discord server once I was finished, because who doesn't like instant gratification? I noticed the shadow issues only after that. There wasn't any point in fixing them. I played with the curves a bit, and while I do think it ended up looking better, I could have done way more if I noticed this problem earlier on. This bummed me out a lot. High screen brightness not only does hurt my eyes, it also eats up the battery so quickly. My Procreate was lagging and shutting down already because my storage is filled to the brim, and my charger cable is broken too. I had to find the weirdest angles to multiple types of engineering to be able to charge my iPad to more than 10% as I was drawing. All of these combined annoyed me so much. There were multiple occasions where I took a break so my iPad will charge and I will have an easier time drawing. but was greeted by an even lower percentage when I came back because my cable decided it didn't like me anymore. So even though this piece took nearly the same amount combined, around 4 hours to be precise, it was scattered around 5 days. Obviously this caused a huge dip in my productivity. I don't know what I could have done better in this situation other than getting a new device, so I'm not too ashamed by it, but it was still irritating. Granted, I'm grateful at least my iPad continues to function the bare minimum, so I still get to finish things. I was still proud of myself for completing it, and I also liked the results to a decent degree. But I think dragging it over 5 days ate up all the hype. Even though I didn't necessarily work on it more, I was aware of its existence for way longer. The end result was nearly there since I did sketch shadows, but I had to keep polishing it further and further. If I did the polishing in one sitting, I would probably be happier once I finish it. This is a device related issue, so I'll stick it up for the time being. Overall, I think the practice served its purpose very well. And the Discord servers are a godsend since I can just pick any OC I like.